Hey guys, I'm Kenny Medlin with REI Global Connect, and I'm just going to take a minute here and tell you of a mistake that I made, because if a real estate investor tells you they made a mistake, you better run. Okay, this is mine, and you'll see as we go through, this is more of a presentation on what not to do. Okay, my number one advice to everyone is to listen to the words. Beware the man who comes bearing gifts and invoking flattering words. Take a look. He's a great guy. I'm not going to say that he's not, but he sure is off in left field. Okay. All of this is true and verifiable. So let's continue with my presentation of my mistake of Mongo's Castle, more affectionately known as Ashlar Hall of Memphis. So I got this castle donated to me by Prince Mongo. I did not know the full story. Mistake number one. So as we talked, and he was looking, he wanted to donate it to a nonprofit. I was volunteering as an executive director for Urban Renaissance Initiative at the time, and he wanted to donate the property. So we sit down and we talked about it for a couple of days, and then finally he brought over a basically a quitclaim deed and said, "I'm going to give you the castle." Great. Now this is what we're talking about. It doesn't look so wonderful right now, does it? But look at the architecture. I knew the history. Ashlar Hall was built well over 100 years ago, and you can look up the history on it by a man that was really one of the founding fathers in Memphis, if you ask me. It was built for his daughter as a present. So it was shaped like a castle because to him, she was his princess. You can see it was very well outlined, and if you know the history, uh, that picture on the left there was viewing from mom and dad's house they had built. So anyway, let's get back to the story before I get sidetracked. I could tell you a great deal about Ashlar Hall. So Mongo donates this thing to me towards the end of the year. I'm sure he was doing it for tax write-off purposes or whatever. I don't. Nobody can really understand what Prince Mongo does sometimes. But he's extremely intelligent and the most giving, generous guy that you would ever meet. If you met him on the street, you couldn't miss him because he dresses like the previous picture quite often. But on my birthday, and we won't tell you, well, I'll tell you the date, December the 28th, okay? We're celebrating my birthday. And I get a phone call on my phone, and I answered it, and it was the attorney from the city of Memphis asking me who I am, and I answered and said, yes, sir. And we went on down the pike. So anyway, he says, well, you need to be in environmental court in 2 days to answer to Judge Potter. And I'm like, for what? No clue what had just happened to me. This gift that I had just received for free was fixing to become the bane of my life for about 2 years. Okay. Anyway, so I get up and I go down to the courthouse and meet with Judge Potter, and of course he's wanting to know exactly what in the devil just happened, what's going on. And there was about a 6-month time frame that I didn't even know if I was going to get to keep the castle, because evidently Mr. Hodges had arranged something with Judge Potter in the court to donate it to a nonprofit charity. But the caveat was, and I didn't know it at the time, honest to goodness, and I'm sure Judge Potter thought I was just a part of another one of Mr. Hodges' antics to piss the judge off, I guess is no other way to put it. But in any case, I go down there, right? And I'm trying to explain to the judge, and we go through this 6-month oration. This became a every 2-week ordeal for me to go at 10 o'clock in the morning to environmental court in downtown Memphis. Now, for those of you who don't know me, that's about an hour and a half drive for me to come from where I live, and traffic is horrendous transversing Memphis, to go down there and explain to Judge Potter what I've done. If you can see, looking at the white picture on the screen, this yard was completely grown up. I mean, it was horrid, as if nobody had done anything in 2 years. This was under a blight problem, and the officer from the Memphis Fire Department to his handling blight. Mr. Mark Adams was wonderful, and he tried every way in the book to work with me to help get this out of environmental court, which there was all kinds of problems that we had to go through. You see the pool, we won't even talk about the pool. We'll talk about that another day, maybe. So let's proceed. So you see the castle. This is from the east side. It was beautiful. And all that stuff had to be gone on the outside. And we haven't even gotten to the inside yet. But here I have a property tied up in a nonprofit titled organization. And I had been a real estate investor for at that time, not 40 years, maybe 35, 36. But I had been doing loans. And it totally slipped my mind that a nonprofit has one heck of a time borrowing money. It really does. People do not want to lend to nonprofits. I don't care what the collateral asset is. And trying to convey that in environmental court. Meanwhile, environmental court had fined me initially over $600,000. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And when it was all said and done, Judge Potter did what was right, reduced the fines, okay? So we'll lay that aside for now. Environmental court's a unique experience, and if you can avoid going there, avoid it at all costs. And was this property worth it? I'm not going to answer that question. I don't know if it really was or not. This was blood, sweat, and tears, literally blood. I was out there doing a lot of the work because without being able to get the loan done, I was faced with, on one side, the judge saying, hey, now, you don't have the luxury of time, get it done. On the other side, the business investment side was saying, well, we got to have money. We needed close to $400,000 to renovate this property. And it was, well, it was in a great neighborhood. It was located dead center of Memphis. It was one of the most prestigious icons in Memphis, even though it's a sordid history from being from a stately old home that transgressed to a restaurant, then became Prince Mongo's castle, which was a bar, and many other things actually. And I could go into the history of that, but we won't. This is a family video. So we progress on, and we were trying to get the repairs done, getting estimates out here. We brought in some other nonprofits trying to work and help this, and some of that worked out well, some of it didn't. Some of the nonprofit people that were in the initial stages of trying to win the ownership of the castle through the environmental court as a nonprofit, they were mad at me because they felt like I had stolen the property, which I didn't. But people only have their vision, their view. Okay, but you see that there was a lot of repairs that needed to be made in this stately old property. And I'm still tied up in environmental court every 2 weeks. Now, we did work trying to do repairs and you see we took the awnings down, trying to do all kinds of little things to keep Mr. Mark Adams happy, keep Judge Potter happy, and everybody else happy. But at the end of the day, and we get to the inside now, this is a beautiful house. Guys, you have no idea how incredibly beautiful this house is on the inside. Now, granted, you'll see some things that Mongo added to it, some of them kind of humorous, but the issue is, and I'll make another point now. I said beware of people bearing gifts. Also beware of falling in love with your property, because I did. I mean, at one point I thought about renovating this and moving into it. And if it wasn't in the center of Memphis, I probably would have done just that. And things would have been probably a lot different. But you can see of all the gorgeous things, okay? So first thing is finding contractors. How do you find contractors to work with a nonprofit? That's hard to do. Finding other nonprofits that will coincide with the environmental issues that you deal with. That's another issue because they have their own agenda, their own mindset of how this thing goes, and their timeline. And when you're in environmental court, you don't have a timeline. You're on the judge's timeline, and it is like, get it done yesterday. Then when you have a historic property, which this was on the National Historic Registry, you had to deal with a National Historical Group as well. We had a neighborhood association, which happened to be one of the most affluent neighborhood associations in the city of Memphis. And I won't mention their name. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't mind, but I mean, they're very affluent. And they were not very happy at this whole escapade anyway. They've been trying to get rid of Mongo for years, and they were afraid that I was just a quote-unquote proxy for Prince Mongo, and that I was going to continue the problems. that he had been giving them for years. He bought the property, I think, in 90, and this all happened so many years later after they'd been a bar. So I'm trying to go through, I'm going to get tied up here. All of these things, we had students come in, we had pictures come in, we looked at creating a children's home for LeBonner, and I got criticized for that because I wanted to have a place for Princeton. We won't go into all that. In any case, we went through several different exit strategies of how that we could take this stately old property, maintain it to the historical value standards, keep Judge Potter off my back, obtain a $500,000 loan to get it done, and in the meantime still, and what you're seeing is as I got it, okay, not what we did after the fact. But look at the architecture, the wood is just phenomenal in this property. No, this is hand carved. This is not plastic creations. This dates back to the late 1800s, turn of the century. And yes, as I said, Mongo added a number of wonderful features, as you'll see on the left side, which is a milk dispenser, and it twists around and sprays. And yes, it was intended to be exactly what it looks like. So you can kind of imagine the history, and that's why I wanted to share that, not to be gross or whatever you want to call it, bad words. Just a matter, there's a unique history that goes to the property. So I'm trying to deal with that as well, and all these people that were around looking. So this was the third floor. And yes, this thing had three levels and a basement. And off to this, and I didn't include a picture here, was actually an antique shower where water was collected from the roof, warmed up in the attic, and in the evening time, you could take a shower in this house. And that was in the 1800s. So, there was a lot of innovations in this old house. You go through and you see the mess that it was in, and all this stuff had to be gotten rid of. There was a kitchen upstairs, and everything worked. Prince Mongo did use this occasionally as he was there, but there was actually 3 bedrooms on the 3rd level, plus the kitchen, plus a bathroom, full bath, and then goes into the attic area, which somebody could have finished out if they wanted to, but that was also where that very unique water bastion was. Now, again, it's incredible. This was all stained glass here on the left, and trying to deal, in the historical side, you've got to meet qualifications. The glass they wanted replaced with real old lead glass. That's hard to come by these days, guys. But this thing was just truly amazing all the way through, for a house especially. Now we go to the basement. Again, the reputation preceded it. But at the same time, down here, I had to deal with environmental issues because we had mold that accumulated. Okay, I wasn't really up to speed at the time on mold remediation. A friend of mine come out from SEG Environmental and looked at it for me, and I'm giving him a little kudos here. He's a nice guy, really is. And we went through what would have to be done. So another little thing to warn, mold can be devastating to any kind of facility, as well as the plumbing. We had issues on this level as well. We had 2 full bathrooms down here that were expanded bathrooms for guests. This was the party room, the party area, if you will. And you can see that we had electronic ones. So all these things were wonderful. We had to get rid of everything. We wanted to not just throw things in the garbage. We had some people that wanted relics and souvenirs from the castle. We gave away a lot of stuff. We had fundraisers out here to accommodate this. But just from the standpoint of a real estate investor, know what you're getting into before you get into it. Do your history, do your research. I did an inspection of the property, okay, and everything really looked okay. We didn't have power on, but I was able to see. And if you look at it, you would fall in love with this property very, very quickly. And I know it looks bad, but see, I love ugly looking houses. That's what I had bought for years and then fixed them up and made them nice. But this, to me, turned out to be one of the biggest mistakes that I made as a real estate investor, with no ability to fund it. And honestly, I didn't have $400,000 in liquid cash to do it myself. I was really thinking I could borrow the money. That was a mistake. So what can I say? We have this little time here, but understanding the property, understanding all the different facets, going to get the information. Where do you find this information? That was one of the things that I had problems with, okay? And dealing with all these new things I had never dealt with before. The Historical Society, the National Historical Register, Environmental Court. Lord have mercy, that was so educational, for lack of a better term. And all your well-to-do friends that will tell you, hey, I'm so proud, you know, this, that, and the other. And at the end of the day, this was a mistake for me. Granted, one thing that my dad told me many, many years ago, he said, son, you're going to make mistakes in life. It is not the mistake you make. It is how well that you recover from the mistake, right? So, the recovery. There is no recovery after a fiasco like this one, but I did learn valuable lessons. Beware of the man who comes bearing gifts and invoking flattering words, no matter how enticing the property looks. Do your investigation and do your homework. Meanwhile, that's the first rendition in our alignable lesson for real estate investors. And I hope to do more of these little videos, fun videos, I hope. I mean, this was interesting because of the history. But this is one reason why I created REI Global Connect. And you can look that up. I'm not trying to make a shameful promotion. But when an investor buys a piece of property in an area that he does not know, maybe he's in Memphis and he wants to buy in LA or buy in Atlanta, information like this becomes extremely valuable to us. And that's what I realized, finding a place for contractors and other service providers to come together to help the real estate investor. So take a look. If you're one of the 50 supporting real estate industries that support real estate investors, we'd love to have you come on board. At the same time, join a line. We'll come into the real estate investors group and let's talk and convey and learn. In other cases, y'all have a great and wonderful time. There's been more millionaires made in real estate investing than any other industry in history. Okay? So it's not a bad deal. But not everybody is going to get there, and if you make mistakes, they can cost you big. However, it is worth continuing. But if you think the price of education is experience, and I'm borrowing this from the Memphis Investors Group, if you think that the price of education is expensive, enjoy the price of ignorance, because it gets really, really expensive. Guys, have a great day.